So today I'm going to share with you how I was able to pay off my mortgage at 42 years old. Not just once, but multiple times after levelling up and buying bigger places. And I'm not some kind of financial guru or anything, or millionaire. I'm just going to share with you what I did. So grab yourself a cup of tea or some wine and I'll take you on a journey. So when I first moved to the USA, it was because I met my ex-husband now, but my husband at the time in England, and I moved here with him and we were together for about 7 years. And then we decided to go our separate ways, we got divorced, and at the time we were living like paycheck to paycheck and it was so hard. And he liked to buy a lot of things, to be honest, like expensive things like bloody Ducati motorcycles that we couldn't afford. Then when we got divorced, obviously it was even harder because then you're going back to one paycheck, which I didn't get paid very much at the time. I worked for the state and I made like 30,000 a year. It was so low. And so I was like a little worried, and I ended up renting a 2-bedroom townhouse. So this 2-bedroom townhouse enabled me to rent a room in it. So I was able to get, like, I think at the time it was like $650 a month for this room, which at the time I was renting this townhouse for $850 a month. So that like gave me extra money to like save. So what I did was I saved it. I didn't put it in the stock market, which I know most people would say you should have, but this is what I did. And I'm just going to share with you what I did, which is a lot safer than other people would do, I know, and I'm not any financial expert. I'm not giving you financial advice or anything. But what I did was I saved all that money, and I was saving because I wanted to buy a place. Even if it was like a tiny place, which it ended up being a tiny place because I couldn't really afford anything on my rubbish pay. But I ended up getting like 3 jobs. For like 7 years I did 3 jobs, right? So I worked for the state and I did real estate on the side, and I had an accounting job on like the weekends, and I could take my dogs in there, so that was good. And so I worked these 3 jobs, I saved a bunch of money. So a year later, I ended up having like 13,750 was the exact amount. I know this because I found this 1-bedroom condo for 55,000 at the time. It was 650 square feet, just 1 bedroom, 1 bath, but it allowed dogs, and I had dogs at the time. And this is one of the reasons why I didn't actually move back to England at all, because I lived in the USA. I moved here for my ex at the time, you know, well, he wasn't an ex then, we were together, we got married, we were together 7 years, and then I could have moved back to England, but, you know, to be with my family again, but like they didn't really have anything, and what was I going to do there anyway? They don't, it's not like they are rich, I'm not, and I had dogs, right? I'm not going to leave them. And so we shared custody of the dogs. Luckily, the dogs were allowed to be in the condo. Some of the condo HOA don't let you, but like this particular condo, it backed onto a green space, and then there was a bridge that took you to the park. So I thought, oh, this is like the perfect condo, you know, for me, because it's cheap, and I shared custody. So I lived in that condo for about maybe 6 months, and then he dropped off the dogs one day and it was like, I met somebody new and she has white furniture and doesn't like dogs. So I didn't really see him again after that because he dropped off the dogs and I had the full custody of the dogs, which worked out good for me. But at the time I was like, oh no, I need to find a place because I don't really have enough room. Well, I can't have the dogs in here full time. It's just, you know, a condo full time. It just seemed kind of mean. So I ended up looking for a place after that. I was searching and found this house for 110,000. It was 3-bedroom, 1 bath in a not very good neighbourhood, but it wasn't too bad, and it had an attached garage, which was nice. Like, it was perfect. The lot was big, so it was perfect for the dogs. It was fenced, and so I ended up, what I did was I had only had 10% down for that house because I didn't really have a lot of savings at the time, and because I'd used it on the condo. And but I had been like living really frugally, and I had the 3 jobs, and I'm trying, and I only made like 45,000 at the time anyway, like with the 3 jobs. So I ended up putting 10% down this house, and I ended up renting a room in that house, and I rented the room for like $650 a month. My payment on the house was only $850, so I was only had to come up with $250 now for this house, right? I ended up renting my 1-bedroom condo out, and it basically pretty much broke even. I got like 50 cash flow a month on that one, not much, but it was better than nothing, and I kept it because I don't know, I just felt like I wanted to. It was my first one, and I thought, oh, I'll just keep it as a rental. And the renter I had was really good, luckily. And so I cash flowed that one to $50 a month, and then I ended up only having to pay $250 on my mortgage. So technically I only paid $200 a month to live, which was amazing. So I just kept paying my mortgages down with the money. Like, I pretended like I still had the mortgage payment myself, even though I had rented out a room and stuff. All the extra money I just put on paying down my mortgage early. I know a lot of people would say, oh, you should have put that in the stock market, you would have been better off. But at the time I just don't like debt. I just really don't like it, and I want rid of it. So it's like a mission to me, like, to get out of debt. So I just paid down my mortgage, which was awesome because I was able to pay it off quicker. So then something really cool happened, and a 2-bedroom unit came up in the same complex as my 1-bedroom condo. And I was able to buy it with no money down because the owner was carrying the contract, which means they were being the bank. They couldn't sell it, so they just offered like seller financing options. They didn't want to be a renter. They didn't want to rent it themselves. They just wanted to get rid of it, I guess. But it did say like a stipulation, like you have to pay it off within 5 years. And I didn't really know how I was going to do that, but I offered anyway. And I bought it for $75,000, and I ended up renting it out. It was a 2-bedroom, really cool actually, because it was like in a nicer area than mine. It was just across the bridge and closer to the park, and it was only in a building with only 4 units instead of my other one, which was in like a 30-unit building. And so this one, anyway, it was nicer. And so I ended up renting out for $950 a month. So it only cash flowed about $200 a month, but I used that money and the money that I was getting from my renting a room in my house and paying down my 1-bedroom condo. So what ended up happening, which I know a lot of people would say, oh, you should put that in the stock market, you'd make more money. I probably would have, I know that, but I'm a little bit more like, I just don't like debt and I want rid of it. And I just feel like if you have property, you're safer, you can live for cheaper. I ended up completely paying off my 1-bedroom condo with all this money. Like, I didn't pay down my house, I was paying down the smallest debt first, because like Dave Ramsey's, he always says, pay off the smallest debt first so that you can do the debt snowball quicker. And I like that. It just makes you feel good when you've paid something off, like it's just like an accomplishment kind of thing. So I ended up paying off my 1-bedroom condo. So that ended up cash flowing $550 a month, which was awesome. So I used all that money to pay down my house, right? And I was still getting like the cash flow of $200 from the 2-bedroom condo. I was still cash flowing that $200 a month, and now I was cash flowing the 1-bedroom $550 a month. So I was using all that money to pay down my house, right? So anyway, in the end, what happened after a couple of years of living in my house, and I still had 3 jobs for like forever, I ended up selling my house. So I bought the house, remember, for $110,000, and I ended up selling it for $175,000. And after like realtor fees and everything, I ended up getting about $60,000 out of that house. So I ended up moving into my 2-bedroom condo, which, don't forget, I only bought it for $75,000, and by then I had paid down loads. So I used all that money and just paid off my mortgage. So what I ended up doing was living in that one for a while, for like 2 years, so that I didn't have to pay the capital gains on it, and I ended up selling that one. So I bought it originally for $75,000, then I ended up selling it for $135,000, buying a new place, which was 2-bedroom, 2.5 bath townhouse actually. And I ended up paying $155 for that one. It was really nice actually, when it had an attached garage and everything. It was lovely, and it was a nice area. And I sold my 2-bedroom condo because I'd been there enough time that I didn't have to pay the capital gains on it if I sold it, so I thought it seemed like a good time. So I ended up making on that condo, because I'd already paid it off and everything, I made like $55,000 on that one. And I'd already paid it off, so the whole money I had is cash, right? So I could put it down on my new place. So what I did is I put that money down on the new place that I bought for $155. I only really had a mortgage of like $25,000 then to pay, which was nothing. So I paid that off pretty quick because I kept like using the $550 I was cash flowing from the 1-bedroom to pay off that one. So I ended up selling that one eventually 2 years later, and I ended up buying a house for $330,000 for cash, because I ended up selling my 1-bedroom condo in the end because I was so fed up with HOA fees. There were some issues that go along with HOAs, and they don't always fix things, and then you end up having some issues down the road. Like one of them was not, it was a bit of a disaster, and that would be another video because it would be a bit too long if I share that, and it gets a bit complicated. So I ended up deciding to move completely out of condos and no HOA fees involved, and moved into a house which I ended up paying actually 315,000. It was on the market for 335. I ended up paying 315,000 cash for this house, and that's it. And then in the end I ended up selling that one for 483,000 2 years later. So honestly, you can do it. It's a bit of luck and a bit of hard work, and well, a lot of hard work, because I had 3 jobs for years, but I made so much money just from like leveling up and moving instead of just staying in one place, you know, starting small and gradually building. And so you can do it. And that's just basically how I paid off my mortgages, not just once, but several times over. It definitely wasn't glamorous and it wasn't easy, but it was hard work, but it was totally worth it. So basically, I just wanted to share my story just to show you that you don't have to be a financial wizard to be able to be financially free. You just have to be a little bit stubborn, work hard, live below your means, maybe do some house hacking if you're willing to do that, and choose freedom over flashy things. And now I have the best kind of wealth. I can do whatever I want because I worked hard before. So I hope this gives you some inspiration of how you can do it, even if you're making low income. Like, if you're willing to house hack or do other things or not buy the flashy things, you can get to financial freedom quicker if you're just willing to put in the work. So anyway, I hope this helped you in some way. And let me know how you're doing on your financial freedom journey, or if you're just having a hard time, just let me know either way in the comments. It's definitely been hard for me, and now it's not. So I find it's easier now than it was because I'm at a different place than I was then. But it's definitely hard. I didn't live in the most glamorous places, but I made it work. So I hope you can too. I'll see you on the next video.